soldiers from the sky, fearless men who jump and die, men who do just what they say, the brave men of the Green Beret, silver wings.
Welcome to the United Constitutional Patriots radio show with your hosts Johnny and Chuck. I will now turn the mic over to Johnny. Johnny, here's Johnny. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Pete, and welcome to the United Constitutional Patriots radio show, America's True News. Tonight we don't have any cues. There was none posted over the last couple days, and we do have a very special guest tonight. Her name is Shauna Cox. She was a young lady that was in the vehicle when Lavoy Finnegan was murdered by the FBI. She's the one that also helps. They were shooting at her. They were trying to kill everybody in the car. And she was with Lavoy right up until he was killed. And we have her as our guest. She's going to tell the truth, the whole story of everything that went on. And she's going to fill you in on other things that's gone on at the same time. Now, keep in mind, folks, the news that we give is it's vetted, and we use eyewitnesses. We do not stop them from talking or telling their story because we don't want them to forget something or leave anything out or lose chain of thought. We are doing everything we can to expose what has happened to Lavoy Finnegan, his wife Jeanette, his family, and the victims of this out-and-out murder of Lavoy Finnegan. So what I'm going to do, Shauna, I want to welcome you to the show. It's a great honor to have you. We appreciate you. And I'm going to let you take it from there and just take as much time as you need. Let out everything that you want that the public needs to know. And again, we appreciate you being here. I want to thank our staff that is here tonight. Of course, everyone knows we've got Greg Clark, we've got Chuck, we got Jasper on here tonight. We also have the Patriot Cowgirl, and we have Tom, also, who was with Lavoy, or directly involved in the Lavoy situation. He was with Lavoy right up almost till the time Lavoy had passed away. So I'm going to turn this over to you, to Shauna. And Shauna, just go ahead and just tell anything you want to tell on this whole situation. And God bless you, and thanks for being with us.
Well, I appreciate this opportunity. I don't really know exactly where to start, but I think that maybe on the January 26th, it kind of led up to things as when we got to the refuge, that we were trying to teach the ranchers about their constitutional rights, because we were trying to help the Hammonds to have a redress of grievance. We had petitioned the government. Ammon had put out this, it wasn't just Ammon, but it was a number of people that were helping him. And they put out this petition of redress of grievance for the Hammonds because they were being resentenced back to prison after already serving their time. And we felt it was double jeopardy and that it needed to be addressed. And nobody was doing that because that's your First Amendment right. And when nobody listened, in fact, one of the commissioners told us, they came to the refuge and told us that they had been instructed not to address it, to not do anything but to be quiet. And that had come down from the federal government and from Stephen Grasty. They were told not to answer our redress. When it was finally announced that we weren't going to get anything other than a a few local people who were only going to walk around the block and in a protest, realizing that it was going to go nowhere and do anything, is when we had been asked to, well, I shouldn't say been asked. It's when the decision was made to go out to the refuge because we needed to have attention brought to this because no one was paying attention. When we got to it was the 26th, we had already been speaking to lots and lots of ranchers there, and they knew that our message was to teach them the Constitution, and other ranchers from the other counties, because they needed to know that they had rights, that they needed to stand on those rights, and that the sheriff had a responsibility to protect those rights. And he has more power than anybody, including the President of the United States. He has that right to defend his people. We the people, and that's who has the most power. And that's why we were trying to get the sheriff to pay attention to that. We were also looking for the evidence that was at the Malheur to help exonerate the Hammonds. We did not want them to go back to prison. We knew that it was wrong, and they had done everything in their power, but were being thrown under the bus by attorneys. So on that day, on the 26th, after we had met, we had also been asked a number of times of ranchers to come to different counties to help them with their problems and things that were going on. That wasn't our intent at the beginning. It was just, we were there to help the people of Harney County to reclaim their rights back and to help them stand against this tyranny that was occurring. And Hammonds was the icon of the whole crux at that point. On that day, Lavoie was in an interview. I was busy getting records, copies of records of information so that we could exonerate the Hammonds. They needed the evidence that we had, and we wanted to, and that's what we were working for. That's what I was working for. They had made a plan to go to John Day that day and meet with some of the people over there who had asked them to come, because they understood that they do have rights and they are people, and that they were taking back their own rights using the Constitution. And so that was the meeting that had been set up by the locals there in John Day. Lavoie was in the middle of an interview. When I came over to the building where he was being interviewed, we were trying to get people in their vehicles ready to travel to John Day. I went to help the Sharp family because I knew that they were going to put on this musical presentation in John Day. And I knew them for quite a while, for a couple of years. And I was going to, and I wanted to help send them off, get them ready, because I was in the middle of, in between some papers being copied. And so I went to help them. And as things turned out, I had no intention of going with them. But as things played out, it was time for the Sharps to leave. I hurried and got them in, helped get them into the car in their van. And as they took off, I was really concerned because there was a man there by the name of Mark McConnell. Had some very questionable questions as to his integrity and to his motives prior to that day. And that day, things just didn't pan out. I didn't feel right about him being there. He was very obnoxious. He was very demanding, and he gassed up the Sharps van with the refuge fuel, which we didn't all agree with. Anyway, and he cussed at them and got them on their way. And then the next group was supposed to leave, and the ranchers had already left, and there was politicians who had already traveled towards John Day for the meeting. And Lavoie had just come out of his interview when he was getting ready, and Ryan and I took and put all the speaking equipment, the what do you call it, the sound equipment, into the back of Lavoie's truck. And at that time, Lavoie came out and jumped in the truck. Ryan Payne showed up. Ryan Bundy was getting in, and we were looking around. Well, you have to back up to the Sharps. When we were putting them into the van, we were missing 2 children, and the youngest one and the oldest one. And Victoria had just shown up there the night before. It was her 18th birthday, and she had just finished graduating from an EMT class. So she was down into the shower, and Stefan was also down there. He was 5, and we had to send someone down to pick up Stefan and put him in the van to leave with his mother because Victoria was still in the shower. When they got into the Lavoie's truck, because he left after they did, we had to wait for Victoria to get there. And then the guy who was supposed to do the filming, which was David Fry, he wasn't there. We couldn't find him, couldn't reach him by telephone. And so I said, okay, I will go with you. And I put my stuff down, took my camera out of my car so that I could videotape the Sharps. And I jumped into the back seat of the truck, abandoning my operation, and took off, not knowing where John Day was. I didn't know how far it was away from where we were, and thinking I will be back because I was getting ready to go home that night when my replacement showed up. And so I was so as we left the refuge, I was busy on my phone, and I was texting everybody, telling them that I'm sorry I couldn't help do this right now. I will be back. I met people at the top of the refuge who were bringing food in, and I explained to them that I'll see you tomorrow. We are, but I can't give you a tour right now, and those types of things. So we were headed out. Lavoie was driving. Ryan Payne was riding shotgun. And so there was Ryan Bundy. Victoria was in the middle, and she had wet hair, and so she was kind of tired because not having much sleep the night before. And she leaned over and was sleeping on Ryan Bundy's shoulder, and I was working my phone trying to text everybody. So when we got out into the middle of the forest, which was about 30 minutes away from where we had left, I noticed that we were in the tall timber. And when Lavoie and Ryan Payne look up and say, oh, it looks like there is he said it was I can't remember now, a road stop, but it wasn't a road stop. He says it looks like it's an ambush. And so as I looked over to the right, we could see all of these vehicles. There was a lot more than 6. When they said there were 6, there was a lot more than 6. There was a whole trail of these vehicles, but that nothing said police. We couldn't see anything like that, but we could see this whole train of them moving along towards the highway where we were. And that's when Lavoie said it's an ambush. And we've got to get to the sheriff. So they pulled out behind the Jeep that was following. So Mark McConnell was driving the Jeep. It had Buddha and Ammon were in McConnell's Jeep, and they were following directly behind us. And this convoy pulled out behind them. Well, it was hard to see everything because we had a camper shell on the back of Lavoie's truck, and we'd been through these dirt roads. So there was a lot of dirt on the windows. Plus it was kind of tinted orange, the windows. And so it was really difficult to kind of see out. But, and maybe that was from the dirt. But as we were traveling, Lavoie wanted to know why the Jeep was pulling over, because he was saying, why are they stopping? They shouldn't be stopping. We've got to get to John Day. We've got to see the sheriff. And he was very nervous. And he said that that we needed to keep going. Well, Ryan Payne, after the Jeep pulled over, Ryan Payne said, you better stop, because we could see the lights of the vehicles and really deep snow at that point. And it was hard to tell. I couldn't see any colored lights. All I could see was flashing white lights off of the snow. And Lavoie went a little ways, and then he stopped in the middle of the road. He did not want to go further. He wanted to go further. He didn't want to stop, and his leg was jumping up and down on that brake pedal. And he was kind of arguing back and forth with Ryan Payne. And Ryan Payne says, no, you got to stop. So he stopped. And as they were arguing, Ryan Payne rolled down the window and stuck his hands out of that window. And at that moment, I saw a flashing red dot laser was circling around right there, and it was on the mirror and on the side of the truck. And then I heard that bullet hit the metal. I heard the pling. And Victoria had woken up at that time, and she too, all of us saw it, and we heard it, and we jumped because we knew we were being shot at. And Ryan coils back into the truck, and I asked him if it hit him, and he was like freaked out, and he said, they're shooting at us. And he and Lavoie exchanged some words, and then Ryan Payne jumps out of the door with his hands up, and there's lasers all over him. And I was afraid they were going to shoot him. And he said something about there's women in the vehicle, and something about, they said, tell him to get out. Or he said to us, then get out if you want to. And I said, do you want to get out? And she said, no, they're shooting at us. And I said, I don't either. And our eyes were really wide, you know. And at that point, Ryan starts walking back towards whoever the guys were, because we couldn't, like I said, nobody approached the vehicle. I couldn't hear what they were saying. I don't know who they were. But I had seen those types of unmarked vehicles at the Bundy Ranch in 2014. And it made me very nervous because we didn't know who they were, other than, and they hadn't identified themselves. So we're looking for phone numbers, trying to call for help, but we had absolutely no cell service. I was speaking on my phone just prior to that, just shortly, leaving a message one day that we were going to be there at 6 o'clock and that they should come and listen to this concert. Well, so now we have no service. Nobody has service. I can't find a phone number to call anybody. We didn't know who. I didn't know who we should call. I only knew a few names that were supposedly the 3%ers or the militia or somebody that was supposed to be on the outside watching over us, so that we weren't going to be harmed. And we had no reason to really think that we were going to be harmed, because we had left that refuge many times to go into town and get the mail and get groceries and get haircuts and eat out and all those types of things. And people were coming and going constantly for 3 weeks. So we didn't, or more than 3 weeks. So we really didn't suspect any great imminent danger, other than the media had left. When the media left, that was a warning sign to us that some things were beginning to stir a little bit more. Things were beginning to change, the attitudes change. And that was a little concerning. And that's why we were thinking that maybe they were, the militia guys or the 3%ers were still out there watching for us. anyway, as we're traveling, so at that point, while we're stopped, Ryan had got out. I can still see laser lights all over the place, and especially on the back of Lavoy Finicum's head. On Lavoy's head, on the top of his hat, I could see this laser. And that was scary because I was just so afraid that they had already shot at Ryan. So I'm thinking they're going to shoot him. And he keeps saying, go ahead and shoot me, because you know what? He could see in the rearview mirror that laser light was on the top of his head. But he was bound and determined to get us to the sheriff because he trusted nobody behind us. We don't know who all they are. We don't trust anyone. And we wanted to get to the sheriff in John Day, that we felt that would, at least because he had the power, because the sheriff does have the power to protect their people. So that's what the premise was to get to the sheriff. Anyway, I said, there was a little talk about what are we going to do? Who should we call? And I said, we've got to get out our best weapons. And that's when I reached down and picked up my camera and started to record. And I recorded because that was the most power that we have is the graphs and videos. And that's what we learned at the Bundy Ranch, that the more we talked to the public, the safer we were, because the more people that showed up, the more power that we had. So we knew that the power is in the people, and we needed to make sure that these things are documented, of the things that were occurring. And so that's why I turned on my camera. And eventually, when I said that, Ryan Bundy also turned on his cell phone, but I was on my camera. So I was still trying to reach people, trying to get some kind of service with my phone. And you can watch the video, you'll see what happened. I honestly, things went by really quickly. It seemed like I really didn't know the exact amount of time, because when the conversation that went back and forth between Lavoy and Ryan and whoever was behind us, and I asked Lavoy how far we had left to go, and he tells me 52 miles. Then I started to rethink the situation. How are we going to make it to John Day if we take off on these icy roads and these people are behind us? So I say, what are they going to do? Shoot out our tires? And so he was bound and determined that we needed to get there. And we did not want to get out because we were sure that we were going to be shot. And that's why we remained in the vehicle, and our best bet was to get to the sheriff. So that's why we were telling him, well, then if you're bound and determined to go, then we're with you, and go, go, go. Because the sheriff was our salvation. Anyway, that's when Lavoy takes off, and I'm still trying to reach on the phone to get any kind of service. There's no service. And just as we are coming around this bend, and it wasn't very long. I mean, just a short few minutes, just a short minute or two, because we'd only made it down around the corner. And just then Lavoy says, hold on, there's a roadblock. And I looked up just in time as he swerves to the left, and all that icy snow comes flying and fanning up over the top of that right front wheel well, and sprays up over there. And I look in my side window, and I can see the roadblock, and they're right in my face at that time, because I'm on the passenger side rear seat, and I can see them. And as we swerve off into the snow, Lavoy is saying, hold on. And we came out across the left, and I did not see the guy run out in front of the vehicle. But for some reason, Lavoy cuts it a little bit to the left, and we went into deeper snow. And then we're high centered. And that's when we're stuck. Lavoy immediately jumps to his feet, trying to push open the door. It was so heavy. We're sitting at a slant. He can't get it open. He uses both hands and then pushes it. I remember distinctly, even though my video camera is rolling, I am not looking through the little glass in the back. I can't see it. I'm holding it up above my head. I'm trying to keep crouched down because I am sure that they're going to be shooting bullets through those windows behind us. Had already been shot at as we were approaching this roadblock. And then it was amazing to me that they didn't shoot him at that point at Lavoy. And so then we see as he's jumping out into the snow, there's this pause as he jumps, and at that point shots are being fired, and the glass is breaking in the back seat. Lavoy jumps into the snow and starts running away towards the back of the truck. And he is saying, go ahead and shoot me, go ahead and shoot me. And I could not understand why he was doing that, other than my thought was that he was trying to draw fire away from us so that they would quit shooting the truck. But that didn't happen because they continued to shoot at the truck, and they continued to I don't even, I heard no yelling. I heard nothing other than Lavoy. And then you can hear but all the shooting, all the bullets that kept coming. And the wind, and by my head in the video, you can see it. They hit the window that I was sitting next to 5 different times. And it would come in, it would bend in like it was going to break, but it just didn't break. And I'm praying because I know that the intention is to shoot us all. Victoria's sure of that. Ryan Bundy's sure of that. We knew that we were sitting ducks and they were waiting to kill us. We could not, all the windows, the other windows had already been broken out. Both of the front windows were broken out. They continued to fire. We're trying to get out, but we don't dare get out. I can't open my door because of the snow so deep on that side. And neither did I dare do so because I knew that they were going to shoot us. And we figured we were safest in the vehicle. And it continually fires, even though I'm following Lavoy through the snow, and I knew they shot him. And Victoria is in a panic, and she's screaming because she said, "Get out, I need to help him. I'm an EMT," after she knows that he's been shot. It was horrendous. And honestly, I did not know what was on my video, but I saw with my eyes what was happening. And when they told us, well, when they finally stopped, we had been screaming for a while to let us out, let us out. Victoria wanted out, and we wanted to surrender. And she wanted a white flag so that we could get out of the truck. Anyway, at that point, I was afraid for Ryan Bundy's life because I was thinking that they were going to shoot him more. Absolutely, he had already been shot in the arm. I didn't know exactly where he got shot. I just knew that he got shot as soon as we stopped, and that the glass on that back window was broken at about the same time. So I knew that he had been shot. But I didn't know until we got out of the vehicle, because I was trying to get Victoria to go first. And you'll see that in the video. I wanted her to get out because I figured if anybody was not going to shoot, they would not shoot her. Because I believe that they did not know that us 2 women were inside that vehicle, because we never got in except until the last couple of minutes. And it was never the plan. They had no idea we were in that vehicle and that she was getting out. And I wanted her to go first. I believed that they had intended to kill Ryan, but the last thing that they would do would be to shoot her girl. So I tell her to go first. They tell her to stay in so she can't get out, and they want Ryan to come out. So he does, and then they arrest him and take him to the top. Then, of course, Victoria, they take her out, and I have to shut down the camera at that point. You get out of the vehicle. here's the thing that I see, which is which isn't recorded. Now that's the sad part, because this is the part that people don't understand. Number one, that they didn't understand that we got shot at first. Then this time when I get out of the vehicle, I can hear the engine still running. I know that this truck transmission, which tells me that it is still in gear because the rear tire is still turning, spinning through the snow, and I can see that a block of ice has formed under that rear tire. And being a car dealer, I know a lot about vehicles. And so I wanted to know, I was wondering, and the motor was still running. So I knew that the truck that nothing had stopped the motor and that we were high standard. That's when we got out. I mean, when I saw that, I'm trying to be careful not to slip because I have a broken foot, and I was trying to be careful, trying to follow through the tracks of the truck through the deep snow. As I slid out of the truck is when I noticed those two things. The headlights are still on, the truck's still running. I knew it was in gear. And I look over and I can see Lavoie laying in the snow. What was confusing to me was when he was running away towards the back of the vehicle, I can't say running because the snow is about like 3 to 4 feet deep, and he's trying to hop through it with his hands up. So I don't know how come at this point he's turned facing like he's coming back to the truck, and he is now laying on top of the snow with his back on the snow, his face towards me. And I can see him with his outstretched arm. He had his hat on, his glasses. At that point, I knew that he was deceased. Well, I was sure they had already shot him because I heard it. And then, but I knew for sure at that point he was gone. And I start walking up and I look up, excuse me. And so I look up and I look into the trees, and there's all these pine trees. Step these men dressed in camouflage, and they're not consistently the same camouflage. They're different camouflage outfits, but they have the round helmets and camouflage, and they have gear on their heads. They have long rifles, and they step to the left, all of them, and it was almost like we were in a war zone. That's what it reminded me of. And I thought, what in the heck is going on? Because definitely not a road stop, not a roadblock. This was a kill zone. It was like we were in a war zone. And I looked up at them as they stepped from behind the trees, and I call up to them, and I wasn't mad. I said, "You have killed an innocent man, and all of you will be held accountable." And that's what I was saying to them as I'm trying to walk up through that trail where the tire mark going back up to the highway. When I get to the top of the road, and I kept telling them along the way, because I had my hands up and set the cameras and everything, left it in the truck, turned it off, and as I'm walking up this hill, they're yelling down at me, "Who else is in the vehicle?" And I said, "No one." They asked me at least 5 times. I said, "Nobody's in there. I'm the last one. There is no one else in the vehicle." And as I walk to the top of the road, I see Victoria, and she's kind of frazzled. And I can see that it was kind of cold. Her hair's kind of mussed up at the top, and she doesn't have her jacket on, her vest that she'd been wearing. And she says, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I said, "For what?" And she said, "I couldn't remember your name." And I told him it started with an S. And I just kind of laughed it off. It's okay, it's okay. And she said, "They asked me how old you were." And I said, and she told me, she said, "I told them you were like 30 or 40, which was awesome." I said, "Good girl." Because when you're 18, 30 or 40 is old. I'm not young. I went up to when I stood up there with her, she was freezing. She started shaking, and I was trying to get close to her, but they hurried us off, tried to head us across the other side of the road. And when I did this, there was a number of these guys with their guns stood on the side of the road as they were facing the truck. And they opened fire on that truck and broke out the rest of the windows, including the one that was by the side of my head. And I thought that was absolutely stupid. So then we went to the other side of the road, and they had us sit down along the edge there, so we couldn't see anything behind us in I would say now the crime scene. So she was freezing, and I was trying to keep her warm. And so one of the guys went back to the truck and got her vest and brought it to her and helped her put it on. And then they moved us over behind a van. It was like a custom van. I mean, like those in the old days. Well, in my day in high school, they used to take these old vans and put carpet and stuff inside. Anyway, they had one of those double door vans, and it was open, an older one. And they had the back doors open, and they put us there so we really couldn't see anything. So we had two of the, no, I don't know if they're officers, because they didn't have, nothing said police, nothing. I saw nothing. I was looking specifically for certain people. Ryan was there with us. He was kneeling down. He was telling them how he got shot in the shoulder, and one of the officers came over, and he was in camo. He pulls out a Bowie knife, and he can see the hole in Ryan's shirt. And he said, can I cut your shirt? Ryan said, it's already got a hole in it. So he cuts it bigger, and he looks, and he says, yep, I can see the bullet. Okay. I was standing there next to him. I could see what he's looking at. Then he takes the Ryan, and they walk away. Then two of them came, and they're in the uniforms. I'm telling you, they're in these camo. And there is no insignia. I'm looking for insignia on them. I'm looking for name tags. And there is no name tags on those uniforms. They had ripped them off. One of them had a track on top of his hat, like a pro-cam track. And I said, and another one had flip down binoculars, small binoculars on each side of his hat. And I said to the guy with the track on his head, where's your pro-cam? Where's your camera? And he said, oh, you mean my flashlight? And he flips the flashlight over his left there. And I said, no, not your flashlight. I said, the track, that goes on top of your hat, but there's no camera on top. He did not answer me. He just turned and walked away. But before he said that, I did ask him, I asked them, both of them, while they were standing there, if I was under arrest because I had metal cuffs on. And I said, well, am I under arrest? And they told me, no, you're just being detained. So at that point, I knew that there was no warrant for me. I knew there was no warrant. So I said, why am I being detained? And they said, we don't know. Oh, anyway, they walk away. But I did notice on their uniforms that the name tags had been ripped off. And there was no name on them. One had been hot glued on. The other one had pulled it off, and he had torn the seam and had stitched it with himself. Anyway, it was more than obvious that this was an absolute ambush, and that this was out of control. Somebody had messed up, because the plan was never to allow us to leave there. That's why they didn't know what to do. There was no warrants. There was nothing. And I knew that. And so as we began to, as we were standing there, Victoria began to go into shock. And I knew that because I've done intervention before. And I knew that the only way I could calm her down was because she sings. And so we began to sing together, and I would get her to sing, and we were singing hymns, and they're gospel singers. I don't know all the songs she knows. We sing different. We're from different religions, but it didn't matter anyway. But we sang the songs that we knew together, and I would try to fall in on with some of her songs, and we would sing because we knew that we had to keep the the Spirit of the Lord around us because it was so evil. And she said, I am only 18 years old and that I was almost killed. And I said, absolutely. And you're going to remember this for the rest of your life. And whenever asked about it, you are always going to tell the truth. And she says, I will, I promise. And so that's when they took us. And we sat in, well, we were there for a while. And then they came and brought a van and put us inside the van. And in that van, so we were there probably about 3 hours. And then they took the van and drove it down to the next stop, which was only a mile away. But in that mile, they loaded up Ammon, Ryan Payne, Buddha, and Mark McConnell. And those four, and they did not know that Lavoie had been shot. And so Victoria and I proceeded to tell them, total shock. They hadn't heard anything. They didn't know. And they were just so upset after that. It was all they could do to maintain. Mark McConnell was cold as ice, very cruel to Victoria, said mean, nasty things, telling her to shut up, and anyway, all kinds of stuff. And it was like some people have no sympathy or and that made me upset with him even more. And all he was ever worried about was his $50,000 Jeep that he had mentioned over and over and over the day before. So then that makes me wonder, who talks about the price of their vehicle? Everybody I know buys vehicles. I mean, Lavoie's vehicle costs more than that. Why is he making such a big deal about a $50,000 Jeep? And usually that's from people who don't have money, that all of a sudden, or it was a gift, or it was something that he got. And that made me really think about what the case was. And then when he didn't show up in Portland that night, after they did arrest us, Victoria doesn't show up, Mark McConnell doesn't show up, then 2 and 2 started to add to 4. And I was upset because at that point we knew that that something was wrong. We knew who it was. And I was grateful that Victoria didn't come, but I was worried about her because I didn't know, with her being to men, what was to become of her, because I didn't know where her family was. I didn't know what happened at the meeting. And they took us all the way to Portland that night. So we didn't get there till like 3 o'clock in the morning. We didn't, after they got us booked in, and we got up the next morning, and immediately they booked us. We looked terrible after being shot and gassed with all that. They put all over us, and they shot into the vehicle. So all I can say is, when Ryan Payne said to me, why are they taking so long? Because we'd been sitting in the vehicle till 9:30 that night. It was pitch black outside. There were officers, there were people running everywhere. In the headlights, the roads were all blocked off by vehicles as far down as you could see. And the light, I can identify a number of those guys because they were running back and forth all the time, and like they were lost. The chickens with their heads cut off. They did not know what to do. They didn't know what to do with us. That was not the plan. And Ryan Payne says, here so long. And I said, well, it's mentioned what to do with us. And that's really, and from there on out, it began to be apparent to me exactly what was happening, because I have been through this for many years of learning the Constitution, teaching the Constitution, all the different things that were happening, and I knew what the Clintons were doing. clear back in 1995, and of them usurping the land of the ranchers for the minerals and for power, and because of and then the uranium one, the chemical resources, and all the information that I had discovered that were also everything began to tie together, and that's why I knew that who was behind it and how it all came down. And there's a lot more to that part, but I think you just wanted to hear about Lavoie's incident. I'm telling you that they knew, they premeditated that murder, and that's exactly what it was. It was no road stop, or whatever they tried to color it later. But at a road stop, if somebody pulls you over, they at least approach the vehicle. I don't even know why. We had no idea why they were doing it, what they did, and why did they shoot at us before they ever asked any questions, before anything ever happened. And so there were people, absolutely, and that shot asteroid. I don't know if it's asteroid. I just know that that shot was not the Oregon State Police. That shot came from somewhere else, and there was 2 shots that I know of, and Ryan was shot with that bullet. So whoever did it is absolutely lying, and they're covering up this whole thing.
You know, Shauna, you went through hell, and all of us watched the video numerous times, and we knew as soon as we seen the movie, that's all hell broke loose. You know, you were in cuffs and everything else, but as soon as we seen your video that was posted, it got the attention of the world. Nobody's forgotten, and we're not gonna forget. Lavoie is a strong reason alone enough for the Patriots to stand together and stand up against the corruption in the government, the law enforcement, because it's there. We know it. But if you want, you can touch on and explain some of the things when you went through court, what they put you through, because what they did is wrong. And the American people need to know what the corrupt side of the government is doing. You got good and bad in all law enforcement. I don't care where you go. You have corruption in law enforcement in every state in the union, probably every town in the United States. But the majority of the police officers are very good, and I support our men in blue, support our Border Patrol, I support all of our immigration authorities, our ICE, you name it. They have a job to do, and it's to protect our country from what we're going through right now. So go ahead and hit on some of the things they told they tried to do when you want to.
I will talk about it. I want to say one more thing about Lavoie. What's really amazing to me is Lavoie understood it. And he had committed totally that he was going to stand for the Constitution, that he knew that we have been enslaved here as the citizens, and that people don't understand that we have become controlled by the government as citizens, so we became slaves. And I know people think that it's so far out, but it is not. It's absolutely true. Lavoie understood a lot, and he was a very good spokesman. And if you think what happened with this young rancher, this I say young, he's younger than me, but rancher who was a very private individual, who loved his country, who loved his family, who was only doing keeping to himself all these years, and just wanted to work and be a rancher. And then suddenly he comes to the Bundy's aid, and he gets the picture. He understands what's happening, and he has to do a self-search. He has to do a soul search, and he starts putting it together. Institution and understanding the rights of the people, and his eyes are opened, and he only speaks for 3 weeks to the people in the United States in that media and across the world. And why did their hearts change so much? To understand that he is a true cowboy, that he's standing for what's right, that he is not compromising his values, and that they turn to love him. Only in for 3 weeks worth of his speaking. And that is totally amazing to me. But he knew it. And you see, when he told me we had 52 miles to go to John Day, I'm thinking a long ways. When I went back on a year later and the meeting that never happened, I went back there and realized that we were less than 1 mile from the Grant County line, and that Grant County was deemed by the government, okay, by the governor, as a UN free zone. If people understand what that means, what a UN free zone is, that sheriff in Grant County, okay, Glenn Palmer, considered himself a constitutional sheriff, and he had been helping the people take away that federal control, and that they were manning their own forests, managing their own forests because the Forest Service had been allowing it to burn down so many of their cabins and houses up in the timber, that they were going to manage it themselves. That became a UN free zone. And so if you look, every war that has ever taken place in the United States since the Civil War was never a war declared by Congress. They were all civil unrest, and they were all against. I want you to go do your homework, research it out, prove me wrong. But every war was never a war. They were all conflicts. You know, the Iran, Vietnam, all of these wars that we have were not wars because they weren't declared by Congress. And what happened to Congress? And where did we lose that power? And why do and so here we go into a court. And the first thing I notice is when they give me an attorney, I asked her specifically a couple of things. The first thing I said to her was, do you believe in God? I was not convinced that she did. I told her that we would learn a lot through this trial. Number one, because I know that God's in charge, right? I just asked her that question. I also asked her another thing. I said, is this an admiralty court? She absolutely denied it. But I said, look at the flag in the courtroom. And she denied it because, see, I think she's young and she has no idea and a little bit. People they're sovereigns and we're all crazy and we're conspiracy theorists and blah, 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 blah. And so they demonized the people who know the truth. And that's really unfortunate to the American people. You tell the truth when people think that you're all a bunch of crazies. We're not crazy. The truth is out there, and we have to disclose the truth and teach the people the real truth. That's what my mission is to save the Constitution. That's what our mission is. The Bundys, they're standing to defend and preserve the Constitution. And there's so many through this court, okay, that don't even know what an oath means. They don't know that you're going to uphold this Constitution. If you took an oath to something, that means you took an oath to God that you're going to do something. How can you possibly do it if you don't even know what that Constitution is? If you don't know what it stands for, how can you take an oath? Because that oath says nowhere in it to uphold statutes and code. To know what the Constitution is, you've got to we have to teach the people and our children so that they will understand. And we watched this happen in court. We weren't even allowed to bring the Constitution in. Ryan asked if he could have each of the jurors a Constitution, and they weren't even allowed to bring him in. Audience could bring one in with it in their pocket because the judge says you will to the jury to take an oath to follow the judge. And the judge says to them, you will follow the law as I interpret it to you. Are we all stupid? We can't read the Constitution that was written for us. Anybody who couldn't read very well would be able to understand the Constitution. The law says the real law is do no harm. We got to go back to the scriptures, right? Because that's where it all starts. The law of Moses, the law of God. And the law of God says do harming people, then you owe them restitution. Then you have to make it right when you do something wrong. Have legalese speech in a courtroom where nobody can understand it, that we have to pay somebody to be able to speak for us in a court. We should be able to defend ourselves. And they didn't allow us. They tried everything in their power to scare you and to be able to, they would threaten you with all kinds of things until they would break down even these strong guys after they leave them in there for a long time, and then threaten them with years and years of incarceration and terrible food and the horrible things that they did to them in jail, and then starve them and chain them up and throw them in the hole. And they were in, it was terrible. The stripping and strip searching and all this awful stuff was before they were even found guilty. And they get them to plea out. That's how they're winning in the federal courts. They get them to plea out. And I could see this happening, and it was devastating. And so I have a very difficult time because men that are in these courts, that are police officers, they need to know the Constitution so they can stand up for the things that are right. That's where I'm coming from. They need to know, because the truth is they aren't going through the motions, and they're following after these leaders blindly because they're getting paid to do it. And they say it, well, I'm just doing my job. Wait a minute. That's what happened in the time of Hitler. All of these brown coats were just doing their job, as they would incarcerate people, they beat people, they killed babies and threw them into fires and pits and the ovens. They were just doing their job. When do you take a look at your own conscience? When do you read the Constitution? When do you ask God, what's the truth? And then have the guts to stand up and say, I'm not doing that. Okay, so maybe you lost your 501k or 401k or whatever it is you got, or retirement, or your job, or your government pensions, or your handouts. Up and say, enough's enough, and I'm not party to this.
You know, you touched on some very interesting facts. Go ahead.
I'm sorry I get on my soapbox, but I'm telling you that I've seen it for so long, and I just want the people to start to understand what the truth is, because our Bill of Rights is their Bill of Prohibitions. We aren't citizens. If you are a citizen, you became a slave, and you need to understand the history of how that came about, how they have made America, not America, but corporate America, which is a corporation, and want you all to incorporate. And we all became corporations, and that's how they have power over you. So if you become, so you have to change and go back to being the people that we are, to be people of the land, that we are we the people, and I am one people of we the people, and each of you are one people of we the people. That's where we unite, and we have to stand on truth. That's how we take back rights, because these are God-given rights. The government can't give them to us. If the government gives us all our rights and our privileges, they take them away, and we have nothing. Thomas Jefferson said it correctly. So did Abraham. So did George Washington, Benjamin Franklin. All of them knew that if we don't defend our liberties, we have none. And the Constitution says to our lives, our liberties, and our properties. Okay, so why property? Because property is what makes us wealthy. Every single thing we have comes from the land. If we have a piece of property, we can eat, we can build a home, we can exist and survive and in peace. And if we don't, it'll be like all the other countries where the king owns all the land, and that's why they left and came here in the first place, because that's called freedom. So if we want freedom and liberty, then we must protect our property. And that's why it's important that's happening to these ranchers as they take away their land, which is their income, their resources to provide a living. There are many ways that we can survive as long as we all have our properties, and people need to understand that.
That is very true. One thing that I want to point out, it's a good example. And America hates him. I've never hated no one in my life, but it's a man that I do hate. He's a traitor. He was a president, or he had the name of a president. Now he's in Africa, and he has ordered that all white people, white ranchers, to be murdered. That is exactly what they are trying to have here, where they can just walk up and kill you. And this is what we're fighting against, for the freedom. Constitution is our strongest stance that we could have. And I agree with you, Shawn. Shawnee, you brought up a lot of subjects that I wish we had time tonight to cover all of them. I'm going to invite you back on this show if that's okay with you, because you got a very strong message, very vocal about, which I love. And I think every listener that we have tonight and every American that hears what you have to say, you touched on things and explained them in ways that reach inside of a person. Is there anything else you want to cover?
No, but I really appreciate it. I'm telling you, there is a lot to learn if we can educate the people. That's what Thomas Jefferson said. It isn't by fighting that we win. It's by educating the masses. We have to teach them what their rights are and what the Constitution stands for and how we go back, taking back that power that we have. I'm telling you, the power is in the people, and together and united we stand, but divided we will fall. And that's the whole premise of them, is to divide us, to pit one sect against another, one race, one religion, whatever it is to pit us, man against woman. It's insane. And we have to unite together, and we have to follow God, because he's told us that if we're not moral, we can't, this Constitution and this land won't exist. So I'm begging people, please get on your knees, find out what it is the Lord wants you to do, and please do it, because united we stand. We can do this, and we can do it together. And I thank you so much for what you're doing to bring awareness to this country. And I'm grateful for President Trump and the things he's doing. So that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Shauna. Like I said, I'd like to bring you back, in the very near future, and let you educate a few more, if you don't mind.
Be happy to do it.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody have any questions for the young lady? Chuck, we can start with you. Do you have any?
No, not really. I don't really have any questions. I guess about the only thing I can say is I've sat here and listened to Shauna tell her story, and as a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ myself, I have to say that I am in absolute awe of her constitutional understanding, and I'm in awe of her passion, and she became quite uh, animated in what she was saying a little bit ago. But after what she's been through, I think she has the right to say it, and I'm glad we were able to give her the vehicle through which to say it. So I'm we've had her on here now. We've had Ryan Bundy on here. We've had Cliven on here, and I have been privileged myself to be able to sit here and listen to these people talk about their experience, talk about what they saw. And the only thing I know how to say is I'm just in absolute awe of every one of these people, and they have become, I guess you could say, heroes to me. So I would say thank you, Shauna, for being here, and I'm glad Johnny's wanting to have you back because it's been an experience tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, Pete, do you have anything you'd like to say to the young lady? I don't think we understood what you said, Pete. Thank you, Pete. Jim, you were at the Bundy Ranch. You've been involved in all of this with me. You got anything you'd like to say to this young lady? Jim, did you fall asleep on us again? Okay, we'll go on to Patriot Cowgirl.
I just want to say that I met Shauna in Oregon during the when she was on trial. She's an honorable woman. She's an honest woman. She loves God. She loves her country. You guys need to really listen to her. Take heed to what she has to say because it's all truth. She's very educational. You listen to her speak. She's eloquent, and what an honor! What an honor to be able to have her on our radio show. And your experience, Shauna, is what woke me up, what got me into this movement, and I've been passionate about it since. And I just really pray that people will open their eyes and their hearts and see what she's talking about and know that it's truth and stand with us. Don't just sit on your couch and take it all in from the news because the news isn't telling you the truth. You've got to stand, you've got to educate yourself. You've got to learn your constitution. You've got to know that the media, most of the media outlets are lying to us. That's why we do this show, because it's all truth. So stand, educate yourself, search your heart, listen to God, because it's all truth. And what happened to Shauna could have very well happened to any of you. And Shauna, I kind of want you to explain a little bit why you guys were at the refuge, because a lot of people say, well, they were taking over this government building and they shouldn't have been there and blah yada yada and Lavoie deserved to die. That's not the truth. They were doing it all constitutionally. They were there constitutionally, and if you don't understand the Constitution, then you're not going to understand why they were there. And that's just something I'd like you to hit on a little bit before we end our show.
I would be happy, and I'm humbled, and thank you very much. I guess I get really passionate because I would like to scream from the top of the mountains to the whole world, and yet I am so amazed at how many people don't even know what's going on. When we went to the refuge, the reason to show up at the refuge was because we knew that the media wasn't going to pay attention. They were going to bury this thing about the Hammonds, that the only way that we can get help and awareness is when we do something out of the ordinary. And the whole purpose was a constitutional right to hold adverse possession over this land, because we wanted the government, the so-called who said they own that land, to produce a title. Show me a deed. How did you get that land? And then show how it was stolen, how they had all the evidence comes down to burning them out, flooding them out, stealing the ranchers' land. So they create this so-called land that they purchase here or there, little pieces. But let me tell you, that's not what it was. And we wanted them to show us a deed, because if we were truly trespassing on their land, all they had to do was come in and give us a citation for trespass. If you hold a piece of property in adverse possession, that means that you can hold it. And in Oregon, it was 5 years. So you have to do the steps of reclaiming that land. We put up a flag. We renamed it. We changed the ownership of the address. We had a post office box number. We had everything that was changed. The power, we tried to change the power, everything, because we were paid the power bill, the trash bill, all those things, because we were going to hold adverse possession, not for our benefit, but for the people of Harney County, of whom they had stolen it. And that was the reason to be there. Did Ammon need it? No. Did Lavoy need it? No. Did Ryan need it? No. Did I need it? No. Lavoy, I mean, none of us wanted that land. We were only there to help the people, to help them be strong enough to stand. And as we would teach them, we were hoping they would get strong enough that they would stand on their own. But we told them, we'll not leave until you are ready. So we wanted them to understand where their rights were, and that we were helping them, and we needed the media, because the media was a protection. When you shine the light on the cockroaches, they begin to run, as Ammon put it. Because you see, if you're doing evil deeds, you don't like daylight. You want to do it in the dark, in the cover of darkness. They've done so much in darkness, and now when we shine the light, it just blinds them, and they do not know where to go. And their simple answer was this: if they truly had a deed to that property, why didn't they come forward and have the sheriff give us a citation, which is a misdemeanor, and evict us from the property? That's because they never had the title. They don't have the deed. And I challenged them in the courtroom, and the judge tried to take judicial notice that they did own the land. That's not even true, because you see, all the people that she tried herself, which wasn't constitutional, because the federal judge can't try you in a civil case, but she did. She took those second tier and charged them on her own and judged them herself whether they were guilty of trespass. That's what they're guilty of, because they were innocent of any conspiracy that they were charging them in the federal government. They should have released them, and they didn't. So she goes around behind the barn and decides that she's going to charge them with the trespass charge, because during our trial, when I challenged her, she took judicial notice that they own the malleer. That is not true, because when they have to pay restitution, do you know where the $10,000 each of those young men have to pay goes to? It goes to the Friends of the Malleer. Wow. How can the Friends of the Malleer, who are commingling money with the government, is that how that works in this huge? That's not true. Go back and do your homework. That is totally illegal. And so they've done so many things that are against the law, and they make up their own laws. They throw out the Constitution. They're not Americans. They are not constitutional. And it is the conspiracy against America, people. It is a true conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy theory. This is facts, and you can go back and look at it. Pull out all the transcripts, and you will see that that's what we discovered. Was the more we dug, the worse it got.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, I'd like to have the Hammonds on here also. I'd like to be able to let them come on and tell their whole story. As we know, President Trump did give them a pardon, and we're trying to get him to do the same thing to the Bundys right now, which Pete is the one working on that. However, okay, Tom, you got any comments to your friend there?
Shauna, you know how I feel about this situation. I came to the refuge on the 3rd of January of 16. Me and my son, we were greeted as friends with people we've never met before. We were given coffee on that cold winter night. We were out working cows and we stopped by the refuge on our way home. There was nothing but hospitality presented to us for those weeks that we came there and visited with the people down there. There was never no hostility towards us. Now we went to our courthouse. We were meted at our courthouse by an occupation by the federal government and the militia. Not militia, what I call militia, the FBI, the Mercs, the sheriff's departments from all over Oregon, Idaho, and Montana, from everywhere. 300 FBI agents, over 400 other agents of various degrees showed up in Harney County. Showed up, as I always said, to dip their handkerchief. Patriots. These people pointed guns at us. They overran our county. They would stop in front of the school children getting on their buses and take a piss right in front of the school kids. They'd come into the store down here at Riley and piss on the parking lot right in front of customers. These animals showed up and overran and occupied our county and terrorized us. They shut down our schools for 1 week, saying, oh my God, we're afraid of the Patriots. The ones that was scaring the people was the ones that was trying to perpetrate this crime against the American people and the people of Harney County was the FBI, the Mercs, the Oregon State Police, and all those other criminals. I add other words, but I won't use them. Criminals that perpetrated our county and overran us. Shauna, I love you. You know I do, and I would do anything to help you guys. But speaking as a Harney County resident, people, wake up. The government is out to control us. The UN is out to take over our country and make us slaves to the new world order, the one world order, whatever you want to call it, the deep state. These are the people that wants to kill Americans. Why do you think they've got 32,000 guillotines made up under the Obama administration and was training people to operate guillotines? Conspiracy theory, you might say? Research it. Learn the facts. These people want to knock the number of the population of the United States from 335 million to 2025. Their agenda was to have 85 million people in the United States. Where's all those people going? They were going to be exterminated. Depopulation with Agenda 21. They've harassed the Hammonds. The Hammonds is the only natural corridor between the Mulhere Refuge and the Steen Mountain Monument built by Bill Clinton and Babbitt, Secretary of the Interior Babbitt. They wanted that land to control and remove the Hammonds. I've been living here long enough, and I seen how they terrorized the Hammonds over all those years. The refuge employees fenced off their water holes. They blocked their entry to their pastures, trying to intimidate them. And the Hammonds getting their cattle to pasture was that to go the route. They was that to cut the fences, give their cows to water, was that to cut the fences. And they came at them. They tried to burn them out. The Hammonds built a backfire to keep them from burning them out. And what did? They come and arrest them. And they take them to a mock trial owned by the deep state in Pendleton, Oregon. Federal government building. They made lies upon them, saying they were poachers. that the media ran wild with. That is the biggest farce of a lie. They fed more elk and more deer, more antelope, more wildlife from their hayfields with money from their pocket than the Oregon Fish and Game, the U.S. Fish and Game has ever fed. Those organizations are false, fake. They do not take care of their animals. They do not take care of anything. The ranchers and the farmers are the one that built the wildlife that you see out here today. Shauna, I got to ask you one question. That question, you were 5 to 6 hours waiting for the warrant against you guys. There was no warrant whenever Lavoie was killed. He was killed as an American citizen with no warrants outstanding on him. Can you just touch bases on who signed that warrant? As I understand, it was a retired judge that they got in their back pocket that signed that warrant at the last minute.
Well, the truth of the matter, there was never a warrant. They said that, and so they did things after the fact. There was a complaint written by Catherine Armstrong, and she was never even there. So how can she sign a complaint, which was done by Stacy Beckerman, was the magistrate that signed that, and it wasn't even recorded until January the 27th. So that wasn't there was no warrant. It was a complaint, but it was written after the fact. And on that complaint, when they gave it to me the next day, I understand about citizens and people of the land. They call, if you say you're a sovereign, that's unreal, but really you're American state nationals. But if your name is all in all capitals, well, here's what happened on the front page of that complaint that I received. It had Ammon Bundy all in capitals. It had Ryan Payne all in capitals. It had Ryan Bundy all in capitals. It had Brian Cavalier, and I said, who the heck is that? I didn't know Buddha's name, his real name was Brian Cavalier. Then it had John Ritzheimer, and I knew Ritzheimer was down in Arizona, so he wasn't even here. Why is it on there? Then it has Joseph O'Shaughnessy. He wasn't up there. I never saw him. And then it has me all in capitals, and it has Pete Santilli all in capitals. Now, wait a minute. He's media. He wasn't there, so why is he on this complaint? Then you go back to page 3, and on page 3 it says as they were looking into, and it goes through all the names again. Because I'm wondering, where's Victoria Sharp if this was a warrant, and where the heck is Mark McConnell? Oh, because now we know. But then we get Lavoie Finicum is right in the middle of all of our names, but guess what? It's all in small case. Why is that? Because I know now that they know what that means. Sovereign. He is deceased. They no longer have him. He is no longer their slave. He is no longer a citizen because he's deceased. And so his name is all in small case. Everybody else is still in capital. That was a telltale sign to me. One of the things I want you to do is, yes, Tom was there and he saw a lot of the things. We love the people of Harney County. There's awesome people there. There's awesome ranchers. They had such good hearts, and we wanted so to be able to help them, and that was our whole intent. If you want the truth and the facts, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to a website called We the People, commonlawgrandjury.com. And the facts are there. You will see 63 crimes right now that have most of the evidence that will show you, that will lead you to the truth and the facts. So there's more of it to come. We're trying to get everything out, but that right there is the website that has this information on. It's a little bit difficult to follow sometimes, but stay with it. Do your homework. There's a lot of information there, tons. and it's the truth, it's the facts. It's called We the People Common Law Grand Jury.com. I know it's long, but it's got the answers in there. So if you would do your homework, you'll see it.
One thing I'd like to also bring up on this whole thing, after you guys were arrested and after they removed David Fry from the Harney County Resource Center and the last remaining 4, they had a shredding company come up here to shred vital documents and destroy them. They hit the BLM office. They shredded documents from the BLM office. They hit it the county courthouse and removed evidence from the county courthouse and shredded them. They hit the Malheur Refuge and shredded the paperwork. Why would they shred evidence? Why? Because it showed guilt by the government. And so they removed all evidence of guilt by the government in this case. People should wake up to that fact that the government is covering up evidence to protect themselves. Illegal as hell. Second of all, there was over 2 tons of food down there that could have fed the homeless and the poor in Harney County. They decided to throw it in the trash. There was a ton of beef down there, meat, that could have fed and give good protein to the citizens, poor citizens in Harney County. It was destroyed. Canned goods, it was destroyed. I was down there at the refuge and I asked them why they were throwing all that food away. They said, because it might be contaminated, which is bunk. It could have fed the people of Harney County, the poor, the destitute. They don't care about the people. All they care about is their precious little golden gem down there called the Malheur Refuge, their diamond, the UN diamond. Yeah, I get worked up on the case, as everybody know. I'm honored, so honored to be able to call Shauna, Ryan, and everybody that was involved as my friends. And I stand strong with the Constitution. We should be teaching Constitution to our kids from preschool all the way through high school. Our kids are growing up not even knowing what the Constitution is about. They can tell you more about Kim Kardashian and those idiots than they can about the Constitution. They have no idea because we've dummied down the society. We made the American people stupid as sheep to follow the shepherd, and the shepherd is their government that wants to control them and slaughter them whenever their time and useless. They become useless to society. People, you'd better wake up. The socialist idea they're preaching is exactly what you're seeing with Lavoie. They killed Lavoie, and they were out to kill the entire lot. And that was in there. Shauna, Victoria, Ryan, Lavoie, Ammon, and everybody else that was up there. They had one intention, and that was to murder Americans that was telling the truth, because they don't want the sheep to know the truth. They want to keep you dumb and stupid.
You know, Tom, I agree with you, and thank you so very much on it. Okay, folks, and Shauna, thank you so very much. I'm going to have Chuck close our show as normal with prayer, and after prayer, give Pete a little bit of time to clear our show, and then he'll come on and tell us when we can talk. Again, God bless America. God bless Trump. You folks out there, Trump is doing everything he can to give you your constitutional rights back. He's brought America back from his knees to standing up. Now he's going to even make it greater. Stand behind him. Stand behind what he's doing. I know a lot of the people are saying, well, if Hillary's still running around out there, Obama. He has a plan, folks, and his plan is working. Trust in him. He knows what he's doing, and these folks, everyone's going to be cheering for long because they will be in jail. He is cleaning the swamp. He's not cleaning it, he's draining it, and he's drying it. So all I can say is God bless America, and God bless everybody, especially our veterans and our soldiers that are serving in the military right now. Good night, folks, and you have a good evening. Go ahead, Chuck.
Lord Jesus, we thank you for this another opportunity that we've had to come here and continue this great work that you've given us to do with this show and what we do here at United Constitutional Patriots. We thank you also, Lord, for this great guest that we've had here. We thank you for Shauna and for her passion as she comes here to tell her story of what she went through. And we hope in some small way that this will get the truth out to the masses. Somehow we might be able to stop this from ever happening again. We thank you, Lord, for all that was here with us tonight, all the hard work that these good patriots do each and every day to make this operation go. We ask you, Lord, to bless each and every one, to bless this show, to bless this work. And we ask you now, Lord, to continue with us throughout this night and into the coming days. Continue to guide us, guard us, and direct us. Draw us ever closer to one another and ever closer to thee. For we do ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen and amen.
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 Thank you for tuning into the Constitutional Patriots radio show. Our next show will be on Monday, 6 p.m. Mountain Time and 5 p.m. Pacific. God bless all Patriots and have a great night.